Every day in the USA, people find themselves in court.
I remember when I was chief judge, the power went out. This has happened several times over the years for one reason or another, but the power went out. It was July, so it was hot and it was dark. And in the old days, when we had a stenographic court reporter, we would just go in chambers and do court. Once we did court at a picnic table under a tree outside. We lost power, but we lost power. No one could use a computer. You can't function now without power, but in those days, there were no computers in here. And so now we lost power. No one could use the computers. It was hot. It was dark. People in the basement with no windows, completely dark. So it happened at about 11 o'clock in the morning. And so I went out and talked to the power company guy who was out there on the street between here and the post office working on it. He said, this is going to take all day to fix. So as chief judge, I excused everybody to go home. And I left. About 10 minutes later, he turned the power back on. So everybody got a July afternoon. This was probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Maybe longer. Time compacts itself.
This way, though, you were everyone's favorite judge that day.
everybody got the afternoon off. But yeah, particularly the people in Downs, the friend of the court and the probation, they were on auxiliary power, and it started to get hot, and so
I was working the cell block years ago, and of course that's all brick building. There's no windows. I went to walk. I was in the center of 3 cells, and the power went out, and it was pitch black. I couldn't even hardly see to get my key back in the lock to try to get back out.
Can you open the keys with a lock now, or are they electronic?
You can. They're electronic, so they get easier. But in the case of the power going out,
you can open it with a key.
Open with a key. Interior doors open.
I was in here once, and there are emergency lights, battery powered, and I'd been bugging them. They hadn't done it. And Judy Westwing was the administrator at the time, and someone else was the building ground superintendent. And we were in here taking testimony on an assault stabbing. And the witness was here and the defendant was here in the witness box and in the defendant's seat, maybe 12, and the power went out and it was pitch dark. So I have a little flashlight in here, but it was pitch dark. And so I complained to the administrator and she was mad. And the next day they had, we've been delaying it for like a year. They had the emergency system in here. So my secretary brought me a flashlight of a hippo. So I have my own emergency flashlight in case the power goes out. I'm ready. Just I better write this all down. Nobody will remember it. Anyway, so you got that, Jeremy. I got my own emergency flashlight. All right, so we have just one matter set for sentence today. It's the matter of Lewis Omar War. File number is 2319230D. This took a while for this to get from start to finish. This incident occurred in October of 2023. For reasons I don't always understand, it resulted in a later warrant. Mr. War got picked up in March, and we started the process here. Posted a $300 cash or surety bond. The matter was charged as operating while intoxicated as reduced to a lesser charge of impaired driving. Mr. War entered a plea to that charge. which is frankly probably as good as we're gonna get. And that plea was entered on April 5th, and the matter was set for sentencing today. The defendant is here with his lawyer, Mr. John Bush. Matt Huff from the probation department has prepared the screening report, made a recommendation. Mr. Bush, I advised on the record a bit ago that Matt had a veterinary emergency and had to take his dog to the vet. So he's not here, but we do have his report, and I don't believe anyone's going to be here from the village of White Pigeon. Mr. Bush, what would you like me to know?
Lewis has been very cooperative with my office. We were on the phone soon after I got appointed at least 2 times that we've talked. As indicated, he's had upwards of 3.5 years of employment. He works 3rd shift. He's earning money. He's paying, he has a family. He's paying quite a bit of child support, a significant amount. I think it's $300 a week he's paying. So he needs to be working to keep the family going. Has very limited criminal history. He's been remorseful with me. He's been interested in making the right decisions. Ultimately, with his implied consent issue, he is going to probably lose his, or has lost his driver's license for a significant period of time. Fortunately, he lives in Three Rivers and his employment's in Three Rivers. I would ask the court to implement the recommendation that was drafted.
Mr. War, you just had a chance to look at it. Mr. Huff had some of the same reaction that Mr. Bush just expressed. He said you seemed intelligent, you were cooperative, you got a good job, you seem remorseful, but this wasn't good. You're passed out in the middle of US 131 and US 12 just after midnight on a Thursday night. And your blood alcohol was twice the legal limit. As he indicated, you've really got no criminal history to speak of. The only thing you ever had was deferred. Got no previous traffic or drinking and driving things. But what he is recommending is a 12-month probation, which could be discharged at the end of 6 months. If you're successful, no alcohol and deferred jail time. In the old days, Judge McManus, whose picture is on the wall there, would have just given you 1 or 2 more days of jail. But I want to know what we're dealing with. This was a concern. As you know, we've got lots of traffic incidents on 131 all the way from the state line to the Kalamazoo County line. But fortunately, you or nobody else got injured. Your car overheated or conked out or something, but then you just sort of stayed right there. I think you were passed out in the car. Can you do a probation in this case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, may I make one more comment?
Yes.
One thing that struck me, and I didn't bring it up in my elocution, is his blood alcohol was 1.6, but yet he seemed to be passed out or not functional, which would just lead me to indicate there was not a lot of high tolerance.
But he's not a very good drinker.
I guess we would expected, or I would have expected somebody with a much higher BAL to be at his level of consciousness thinking.
Although we get kind of jaded. We see so many high blood alcohol levels, we tend to forget that a 1.6 is pretty high. But I think you'll do fine. What he also said, Matt Huff, that you've sort of separated from this friend that you were over there in White Pigeon drinking with. You're not having contact with that person anymore.
No, Your Honor.
Now you live at Erie. Well, where do you live?
On 9th Street.
9th Street, which I guess you could walk there. It'd be a hefty walk or ride a bike, but you have to get back and forth to work. Not because of me. An impaired driving would allow you to keep a restricted driver's license, but because you refuse the test, the Secretary of State has revoked your license. Do you know when you get it back?
I do not.
Well, we'll explore that. I'm gonna follow Matt's recommendation. I'm gonna do a 12-month probation that could be discharged at the end of 6 if you do a successful job on it. The sentencing guidelines call for 3 days jail. 3 days jail, credit 1, leaving 2 days to serve, and of the 3 days, 2 are deferred. Matt's recommending that I hold these jail days over your head. If you successfully complete the probation, you won't get any additional jail time. I'm not clear. Did you get arrested that night in October?
Yes,
And then did you get arrested again in March?
no,
Okay. Well, this carries a $300 fine, $75 crime victims' rights fee, a $50 state minimum fee, a $100 screening fee, $150 attorney fee, $480 probation oversight fee, which can be reduced to $240. There's a $200 police reimbursement to White Pigeon PD. And the victim impact panel is $32. Drinking driving is an expensive proposition. It's $13.87. You posted $300 of bond.
I know that he told me he paid cash to get out. He didn't remember the specific amount.
No, I don't see it in here, but it shows it was posted. So I'll put it in there. At least 1,087. And if you complete it in 6 months, we'll subtract 240 from that. Mr. Huff is recommending, this is sort of what we call a timeout probation, where we just sort of give people a timeout from alcohol. We'll do drug and alcohol testing as directed, victim impact panel, no drugs, no alcohol, and testing, and whatever else he feels is appropriate. Have you been up all night?
yes.
This is your sleep time. How are you getting back and forth to work?
Ride from Frank.
Well, that helps. You've been there long enough that you probably know people, and it's really not that far. Probably as the crow flies, might only be a mile and a half, but getting there from 9th Street to Hoffman Street is not direct. All right, Mr. War, I got high expectations here. I expect you're gonna do what I ask you to do, and you're not gonna do any more jail time. This was something that wasn't good. Fortunately, you weren't hurt. Nobody else was hurt. I had a guy last week that drove from Flower Field or M216 to Hoffman Street, southbound in the northbound lane of 131, without hitting anyone or killing himself or somebody else. He did a lot of work after he got arrested, but you've lived here all your life. You know how many accidents are on 131. Maybe it'll be better once they finish all the construction. All right, I'll have the court officer. Well, I want you to go downstairs to the probation department. We'll take that out there. They'll get you started on what you need to do to be on this probation. All right, Mr. Ward, good luck to you.
Thank you, Judge.
John.
Hi, I'm ready for Dan for that sentence at 4. All right, thanks. Bye. All right, Dan will be up here momentarily. Let's go ahead and get started. Everybody's right on time. There are 2 files here regarding Alexander Riley O'Neill Foster. File 232388 is an incident that occurred on December 30th, and he was driving without a valid operator's license. I think he's actually suspended, but that was reduced to allowing another to violate the motor vehicle code. His license was expired, and otherwise So that was in December of 23. In February of 24, he still didn't have his license, but he got arrested for operating while intoxicated in Sturgis, and that was written under Sturgis ordinance, and that was reduced to impaired driving. So both matters are set for sentencing today. One is under state statute, one is under ordinance. Daniel Frazine prepared the screening report. I set this at an unusual time of Monday at 4 because the defendant was working someplace. I forgot, where were you working?
Morgan Olson.
That's right. Are you still there?
No, sir, I'm full-time, well, my business,
Oh, so, all right. Well, I guess I could have done it at a different time, but what's your business?
Smoking Ain't Easy Barbecue.
I knew you were trying to start a barbecue business, but all right. I had some questions here, which is why I wanted Daniel here. And here he comes now. This was a bad set of facts. The defendant was very intoxicated in the intersection of US 12 and Centerville Road, which would be the main 4 of Sturgis, and passed out behind the wheel. He had smoked some marijuana. He had open whiskey bottle in the car. He had no valid operator's license. He had unpaid fines and costs for other operators' license. And he was fortunate the officer didn't tow his car. It looked like they parked it at Tuffy's. The police report says you were transported to the county jail and lodged. Daniel's report says you were turned over to your girlfriend and she took you home. I called the jail and they don't show any record of you being lodged on February 16th. So you got what appears to be a couple of huge breaks. They didn't tow your car and they let you go home, which never happens. So did you go to jail that night or they let you go home with your girlfriend?
Whatever they got at the county, at the station, whatever room I don't know.
Well, they took you to Sturgis and gave you the breath test, correct?
And then I went into, I don't know, Olden tank.
And then they let you go home with your girlfriend?
Correct.
All right, well, the police report's incorrect. It says you were transported to the county jail and lodged, so you didn't. Also, I did find in the police report, they requested $120 worth of restitution. So Ross, what would you like me to know?
Your Honor's correct that it was bad facts. To be passed out at the wheel is not something that Mr. Foster's proud of. And I do know, and it's included in Mr. Frazine's report, that he's thankful that no one was injured. This could have been a nightmare had it happened 1,000 yards prior to where it did. I will note the PBT results were well above the legal limit. They weren't in the category that a lot of the ones you see through this courtroom are. He wasn't 0.19, 0.23, whatever. He was.
Well, if you smoke a little marijuana before you drink too, it makes you sleepy. And he fell asleep. But yeah, his BAC wasn't off the chart.
And I think what's notable is that Mr. Foster is working on making his life better and putting it more in his control, starting a business that he's now full-time involved in, and that he's solely responsible for. He can't. I know that when you're in business for yourself, there aren't days off, and he's taking ownership of that, taking ownership of his life, in a way. He's taken steps to secure a driver's license so he can have the legal transport. Obviously, this is a complicating factor with getting the full valid license, but he's taken his exam. He's got a paper one here. I think Mr. Frazine's accurate in his report and his recommendations. It would probably be beneficial, especially with the stress of going into business on his own and some of the, you can call it freedom that comes with that, to have support with sobriety and not slipping into things. I think he recognizes that drinking and driving while intoxicated in any fashion is not appropriate. You don't want to injure someone. So I would just ask the court to institute the recommendations as given by the probation agent, who's had the time to interview and create the recommendations.
Okay. We got back on track in file 20-40ST. He got charged with driving suspended and was reduced to no ops. He made some payments and then stopped paying in 21. And when this happened, he got back on track and he's made some payments on that, but he hadn't made a payment in 3 years. He had another one, a DV case where he owes some money, and same thing, he's back on track with that. I was distressed that he got this no license ticket on December 30th, and he didn't go get another license, and he didn't have a license when he got arrested 40 days later for this case. Anyway, so you do have a license now?
Yes, sir.
Can I see it?
Oh,
He's still with a paper license because of this pending case.
Does have a temporary instructional permit dated 3/25. So he got a TIP. So you got a break that this no ops doesn't show up. It's going to be allowing another to violate the motor vehicle code. That's 232388. And I'm going to fine you $75. $75 crime victims rights fee, $50 state minimum fee, for a total of $200 as part of your payment plan. So you did finally. This thing hadn't hit yet. So that's a positive. All right. Mr. Foster, what would you like me to know?
I mean, I'm changing my life, working hard.
Tell me about this business, because you had a good job at Morgan Olson. That's got great benefits, good insurance. And I didn't want you to miss work, so I set it for now. And then so when I saw you last and now you quit and decided to go full-time in your barbecue business?
Well, I didn't quit. I put my notice in because I didn't want to leave a job like that, quitting.
Well, I didn't,
I'd
maybe
rather
quitting
be safe
is,
than quit.
but you resigned in good standing.
Correct.
Okay.
So,
And then tell me about your barbecue business.
me and my partner, Brian Green, we kind of started it last year, but this year is like the kind of first year we're starting off, and we got quite a bit bookings coming up. We got some horse shows we're doing. Our main setup is in front of the goat in Myers. So we've been doing pretty good with
In
that.
front of which Myers?
3 of us
The Myers let you set up there?
in front of the goat.
The strip mall in front of Meyer.
Okay, all right. And so you have your own trailer?
Yes,
Where to get your meat?
from Lowry's. We got a couple of meat markets we go to, but Lowry's is the main one. in
Where's
Buchanan.
Lowry's?
In Buchanan.
Okay. All right. Do you have drinks and stuff too?
With
Like,
water.
yeah, soft
Yes,
drinks or
yes.
that sort of thing. All right. Well. Okay. Daniel, the guidelines call for 7 to 9 days, and your recommendation is no jail?
I didn't know how to score this because technically they did detain him there for a while. They said, when I had to call and follow up on this report, I called Sturgis and they said they did hold him there for a while until somebody came and got him. So technically they would have went to our jail and processed him like the police report said, he would have been given a day's credit. So I was kind of thinking 1 and 1. There's no alcohol charges on here. The only possible one would be the drug one, but that was knowledge. So in light of everything and from talking to him, I just felt that doing some community work service and having him on probation for 12 months would be probably do a little bit more than a couple more days in jail.
Well, I do think we need a probation. I'm gonna do 12 months probation. I want you to attend the victim impact panel. Drug and alcohol testing as directed. No drugs and no alcohol, including marijuana. Marijuana is legal for people to use, but you combine marijuana with alcohol the night this happened, and the facts were bad. I'm gonna order 3 days jail, credit 0, leaving 3 days to serve, but of the 3 days, 2 are deferred. You're gonna do a night in jail like everybody other drunk driver. And it'll be scheduled by the probation department. There was $120 police reimbursement hidden in the report on a handwritten form. I'm gonna take out the community service, Daniel, in light of the fact that I gave him a day in jail.
Okay.
But $300 fine, $75 crime victims' rights fee, $50 state minimum fee, $100 screening fee, $150 attorney fee. This is expensive. I had one of these this morning, $480 probation oversight fee. Now, let me say this. You can discharge at the end of 6 months. Maybe this will be the thing. You'll end up being successful at this. You'll own 10 barbecue trucks. You'll be a multimillionaire and live happily ever after. But this was a youthful indiscretion with some bad. I've had several of these. Someone today was passed out in the middle of 131 and US 12. I have another guy who was passed out in the intersection of Broadway and 131. And this is the main 4 in Sturgis. And I had another gentleman who was passed out at US 12 and the road that goes back to the high school, all in the middle of the heavy traffic roadway, which shows pretty significant intoxication at our time waking you up. But let's add this up. 300 plus 75 plus 50 plus 100 plus 150 plus 480 plus 120 plus 32 for the victim impact panel. It's 1,307. That's what I came up with this morning. Exact same case. Payment due, probation. Don't think I have any bond. And fortunately, the Sturgis Police Department didn't tow your car. That would have been another bunch of money. And Anthony, I think what will happen is now that you have a temporary permit, this will cause your license to be restricted, or Alexander. You'll be restricted, which means if you need to drive your trailer from one job site to the next job site, you should be able to do that. Or if you're going to buy meat for your business, the restriction should allow you to do that. So keep track of that with you.
What about also transporting my daughter? Because she in AAU basketball.
That doesn't count.
Okay.
If you're in sobriety court, you can get some special provision, but it allows you to drive to and from in the course of employment, treatment, court. Doesn't allow you to take your kids to school or basketball games or movies or camping. It's just limited to certain purposes. If you're in sobriety court, you can get a special order that allows you to take your kids to school and school functions. But this isn't a sobriety court case, and that takes a special order of the court. We're gonna get your numbers to 0. There might be marijuana in there now. We're gonna get it to 0. I have high hopes for this. You've completed several probations successfully. From when you were a kid. Daniel refers, several of the cases got deferred, I think 3 of them, meaning you did a successful probation 3 separate times. So I don't have a reason why I don't think you should be able to do this. When's your next gig?
It will be, I gotta talk to my partner today, so it'll probably be sometime this week, probably Wednesday, the rest of this week,
Where at?
in front of the goat.
Cause I wanna come in and I'm gonna order some.
You can do that. I got a card for you too,
A what?
a business card.
All right, let me have one.
Judge's orders at your barbecue stand are a lot more pleasant than judge's orders from the bench.
I said something about barbecue, and my old friend Angela Brown brought me some barbecue right in here. Yeah, there's Steve Green,
That's Brian.
or Brian Green.
That's all right.
Welcome, BG and Foster. All right. I'll be coming to visit you. You're good to go.
You also got a Facebook page too, so.
I'm not on Facebook, but, all right,
Thank you, Your Honor.
okay.
Thank you.
All right, so you have to do a day. You want to schedule it with them?
Okay,
That's all you
all right.
All right, Daniel, I'll give you the file. You can have it. And you got to schedule that day in jail, which could be any day of the week.